Change always comes with challenges, and as parents this time of year can take a toll. With the kids back in school, it's time to find a routine that works for your family all year. And today, Kathryn Thalken with Thrive and Shine Co. is here to help us get back on track. Hi, Kathryn.
Hi,
welcome.
good morning.
We're glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so it's very easy for parents to kind of be hard on themselves.
For sure.
Especially because as moms, we're in the comparison game a lot. But you say the back-to-school transition can really feel chaotic, not just for mom and dad, but for the entire family.
Well, yeah.
Can you kind of elaborate? I mean, it seems, yeah, it's crazy.
It is.
I mean, it's just, it's crazy.
Let's call a spade,
That's
right?
what it is.
And so it's one of those things where if you think about it, from the end of May, early June, all the way up until August, you know, some families don't have a schedule.
Wait,
some families are going to
yes.
camp. Some
Yes.
families are doing so many different things, right? And then we're now on this regimented thing, right? School starts sometime depending on your ISD and whether you're in elementary, middle, high school. Schools start between 7 and 8:30 a.m., right? So you now have this, hey, we have to be at this, we have to do this. And so we've now taken our routine that maybe we got into, the groove we got into in the summer, and we're flipping it 100%.
And we're basically accelerating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's time to get ready and to go.
Yeah.
And that includes not just school, but all the things that come with it, the practices that you have to do. Work starts to gear up. It's a crazy time. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that families make when creating this routine that we all really need during this time of year?
100%. I mean, we all thrive on routine, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it's hard to make it, but we all thrive on it. But the biggest mistake that most families make is being too regimented in, hey, we have to do this at this time. It has to take 10 minutes. And if we don't do it this way, then everything else is completely gone, right? So being too regimented with it and trying to plan every second of every day, that's where we're going to go wrong, because we're going to set ourselves up for failure. Because guess what? Most days, right, maybe we can do some of that, but every day is not going to be the same.
Because there's so many things that are outside of your control.
Correct.
You don't know what the traffic is going to be like, you know? You don't know about the big homework assignments. And in my case, a lot of those homework assignments were not presented until me before the night before, and I'm gluing 100 cotton balls on the poster board, you know? So you do have to have some flexibility in that. All right, so we're going to try to help families get it right. So first you say that parents need to regulate first and problem solve second. What does regulate even mean?
So regulate is really basically being able to deal with your thoughts, feelings, and emotions in a constructive way, okay? So it's not about not having them, right? Everybody's got them. We just have to try to figure out what we need to come down if we're feeling a little up, and if we're feeling a little down, how do we come up, right? And so really when we're talking about regulating first and then problem solving second, it's about with both yourself and your kiddos saying, hey, what do my kids need when they come home after school? Do they need some movement, right? Was there outside, or if they don't get outside time because it's 105 degrees, did they not have outside time today? So do we need to do something where we get some movement, get some wiggles out? Do they need a snack? They probably do. Most lunches, right? They're gonna be sometime between 10:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m.
Right.
They're gonna need a snack. So we focus on those things first before we deal with anything else, before we deal with the homework, the assignments, the gluing of the 100 cotton balls
on the poster
onto
board,
a poster board.
which really did happen, folks.
Bless you.
Yes.
And so it's one of those things where we want to regulate first, do that piece first, then deal with the problem solving second.
Okay, all right. So you also say it's also important to create predictable anchors rather than trying to schedule everything every single minute.
Correct.
Are some of those anchors like what you described, that
Exactly.
coming home, making sure that they've got a snack?
100%.
Also maybe giving them a moment to just kind of decompress before they hit the books again?
100%.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, right? So anchors are really just exactly what you just said and exactly what we just talked about. It's having these predictable moments where it's like, okay, I know this happens, then this happens. It's not necessarily we have to have this timetable. It could also be one of those where, you know, okay, after dinner and before bed, we get 1 hour of anything you want to do that doesn't involve a screen. Okay, you can do whatever you want, doesn't involve a screen, right? So again, it's having that predictability of, okay, what is this going to look like? Same thing with the mornings, right? Okay, what do we do when we wake up? It doesn't matter necessarily, you know, keeping it fully structured every, 2 minutes scheduled, but it's
more of an anchor. Rather than 7 tasks, it's the you wake up, you do the the brushing of the teeth,
whatever you want to do, to get yourself ready.
But that's kind of more of an anchor instead of specific tasks that you have to do on a schedule.
Get ready. Okay,
All right.
Do
and
whatever
what
you
is
wanna
that
do.
all?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm getting it. All right.
Yeah.
So also, I think it's important that parents recognize that for kids, they might be less capable of self-regulating. Is it a developmental thing?
Yeah. So it's developmental, but it's also one of those where if you're not taught how to do it, how do you know how to do it? Right. So again, as parents, right? Do you know how to regulate your own emotions? Are you able to regulate yourself?
We have to set the tone.
We set the tone, 100%. So we set the tone. Are we regulating ourselves? Because think about it. If I started really, really talking super loudly right now, you would have a response to that, right?
Right.
Okay. Same thing.
I'd say, wow, that's loud.
You're like, what's happening right now?
What's
Are you
going
okay?
on?
Yeah, what's going on? But it's the same thing. Or if I started talking really, really quietly, right? You would have a response.
Yeah,
okay?
I can't hear you.
Exactly. You're like, hey, hi. But it's that piece of it, right? And so as parents, it's on a much bigger scale, okay? And so you have to regulate yourself.
Okay, well then let's break that down.
regulating
So we're talking
kiddos.
about the term regulate.
Let's
Okay,
go.
what does that even? What does that look like?
Yeah.
How do we self-regulate? Let's
Yeah.
say we get home, things are crazy. It's been a bad day. You're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
What is that? What do we do to regulate?
So you have to figure out what you need. That's the question, the answer that nobody ever likes, but it is true, right? So for some people, it's like, hey, I need 2 minutes of just silence.
Okay.
Right? Okay. How do you make that 2 minutes of silence happen? How do you make that happen, right? Especially if you have, kiddos in the house. How do you make that happen, right? So what does that look like for you to be able to regulate? Some people, it's one of those where they're like, I just need to get in my car and after work before I go pick up the kiddos and listen to some, music that I enjoy, music that I like. I want to listen to the news. I want to listen to an audiobook, right? What is it for you?
So it's whatever it is that kind of helps you reset.
Correct.
And get yourself in the right mental space.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep, 100%.
To kind of get yourself in the right mental space to then take on whatever challenges might be blowing through that door at the end of when the school bell rings.
Here's the other thing too, is being honest about it as well, right? So if you have had a really hard day and you can't seem to get it where you're like, okay, I'm still just on edge.
Right,
Like I'm still just
right.
feeling a certain kind of way. Being honest with your kiddos about it, being like, hey,
they need to see that you're human.
Exactly. And they need to also see that you're dealing with it in a positive way, right? Not that we're like pushing it down, right? We're not pushing down that these negative emotions happen. They happen, right? But we're saying like, hey, you know what? Mom's feeling a little grumpy today. Just FYI, just want to let y'all know I'm feeling a little grumpy.
Say it on the onset so that they understand.
Just
All right.
like, hey.
What would be the biggest takeaway that you would give?
We don't have to be perfect.
Yes.
We do not have to be perfect. What we need to be is present and connected as much as possible, right? I always say connection before correction, connection before anything. So we want to just try to be present, be connected, and don't think about being perfect.
We don't have to be perfect because we can't be perfect.
There's
That's
no
so
way.
true. Okay, where can people find you?
So they can find me at thriveshineco.com or 817-415-0908.
This is always great to have you here.
Thank you
so
so
much.